Hello, and welcome to another edition of Interview with Irene. And in this episode, we have the wonderful Terrence Gallman.
Hi,
How are you? And
I am.
Terrence is an accomplished author and also is working on important issues of justice reform and economic reform in disenfranchised areas, which we will get into. So, welcome, Terrence, and thank you for joining
I'm
me.
happy to be here. It's so great to have long-term.
Good to see you again. I remember it was a pleasure for my mom and me meeting you in Colombia.
Yeah,
That was like 2 years ago. How time flies, you know?
thank you for
Um,
us all the way from Chicago.
yep.
So
We
much has
still,
happened here in South Carolina. So much has happened here in South Carolina since y'all visited.
uh, we still have to bring you here to Chicago. I'm working on that. Some of the things did not work out, but we'll get you here. Just be patient.
I am
Yeah, oh, good.
working in Chicago. Absolutely.
You're right.
Absolutely.
So, why don't we start with your background and how you got into justice reform?
Actually, my background is I served 12 years of a 27-year prison sentence. And since I've been out, I realized that there's a lot of people in the community that did not really understand what's going on with police brutality and these movements that have shaped, and now they're national movement. When I started, it wasn't even socially acceptable to talk about the criminal justice system. Now you have even the present administration passed the First Step Act, and now it's a national movement, and everybody's involved. They even have all the lawmakers now visiting prison. They call all over the world. So um, I started because I wanted to help people understand what those few minutes of interaction between law enforcement and people in the community, and how that um, spilled down into a national call for action. Those two communities do not know each other except for the fact that there's a disturbance and they're both called um, to intervene, law enforcement, and then a suspect is there to um, solve the problem or the concern based on whatever the community issues might be. And if you're a suspect in that case, you have no idea that the law enforcement is not, there to do anything, not there to retreat, but they're there to resolve the issue by any means necessary. And in some of these instances, more than a few times, there have been the use of deadly force, and that's not changing anytime soon. And it's nothing new. It's just they're being recorded, and now more people are being called in to get involved, and now they're investigating, and cases of all type of these miscarriages of justice are showing up in the national media.
Right. And your work has also led to your book Finding Me, and it's a truly inspirational work. I remember reading it.
Thank
Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the funny part, I wrote Finding Me after being incarcerated. I realized that where I was wasn't a true reflection of where I was, and I wanted to go and figure out how I ended up where I was, and going back and looking, through those moments of introspection and charting, what led me to make the decision I made, just allowed me to look at the influences that was in my life, and
Um,
those things, made me find some things that I felt like had I had a different influence, I would probably made different decisions. And those moments became instrumental in me wanting other people to know, and because I was serving such a long-term incarceration, I didn't know if I would make it out. So finding me was my way of sharing with my family that, I was more than a statistic. I was more than just, someone who, was out selling drugs, committing crime, and things of that nature. So, and I knew those things, were not going to change in my community, my environment, unless I wrote and shared those experiences. When you get to prison, you don't make it out, and very seldom do you get a chance to share your story because there's so many other things in life that comes after making that mistake. The reason for those decisions you going, they don't change just because you go. You have those problems and 100 more, throughout incarceration and once you're out. So I released Finding Me after starting my nonprofit, which was the Challenge for Change initiative, and I wrote Finding Me. I published it because I wanted people to know I did have some experience with the subject matter, as a way to get more people, behind what we wanted to do, and that was to start some form of prevention. And we thought inform would be the best means of prevention. So that's where Finding Me comes from, and we've had national and international success, with publishing Finding Me.
Right. And you are also involved in urban renaissance and economic. You want to introduce economic reform in communities that really need it. And one of the prominent economics you work with is Gavin Sirkin. Um, how could you tell us a little how you met him?
I'll give you just a little bit. I think people will understand the connection, how those things came about. I was out in the community to talk about justice inform as a means of crime prevention because 90%, and those are my numbers, most crimes are financial related, you know. And I thought most of the people who was incarcerated behind these mass incarceration efforts were drug related, some type of financial incentive. And so I knew that if I was to have any type of platform, if I was going to get any type of anybody to listen to what we had to say, was we had to talk about the economic impact of not just what it costs to incarcerate someone, but the very reason that most people will get involved in any of those activities from the first place is from some type of instant gratification. And as we see that goes way beyond the urban community, but that's where we started at. And it's not a problem that's just in the urban community. It's a problem in international communities as well. And I thought um, the work that most of the financial journalists do on that level international, they deal with crime and corruption, and those things have a lot to do with where people invest and how well their investment do, because where you got crime and corruption, you tend to not have a lot of investment. You don't get a great return on it. So, being that we was doing the justice informed piece, and we're dealing with ways to attract investment in the urban communities, that's where that connection came from. We was out promoting economic and financial inclusion in the relationship with what goes on internationally, and those guys at Bloomberg lead financial and economic inform in those communities. And we thought that would be a good place for us to make a connection to try to show that people do invest in places that has the issue, and the communities are able to get a break, because you do have people looking at ways to improve those conditions and make a return by investing in communities that may have crime and corruption problems.
Right. And on the international scale, you've met other prominent social justice activists. For example, from Northern Ireland, you met Mr. Vincent Coyle, whom I'm trying to interview also someday. So, how did that connection come about?
That's where it started from. Vincent Cole is the international human and civil rights activist who really
Right?
on the Irish troubles and have been a prominent force in international inform when it comes to human and civil rights issues around the world. And we connected because of his professional background, and we wanted to make productions that inform people from an educational entertainment perspective of how the justice system actually works. And we made the connection, and he was the most inspirational and instrumental piece for us getting the international recognition due to his work traveling again internationally around the world and working in communities that have problems just as we do here, except for our issues tend to be in the news media in the U.S. is black and white, but when you go to Northern Ireland, they're going to be Irish on Irish, and you go to Africa, they're going to be black on black as well. So we tend to have a issue that we can solve, and you get into some of those communities, they are real problems because there you can't even identify, who the opposition of who would be, considered a problem. So Vincent became an instrumental piece, and he was able to share his platform, which was reconciliation, with us here. And I was saying, hey, we're doing justice informed reconciliation. Is a even better way forward because it tends to and create the environment that you want to live in. And that's in spite of or regardless of what the past has been. You're still gonna have to find a way to coexist. And I thought that leadership was very, very good for, our community. Being in South Carolina, and what's been going on with the Mother Emanuel shooting, the state trooper shooting, the Walter Scott case. I mean, we've had, I guess, five of the top 10 stories over the last decade.
Wow.
And so when we started hearing at the State House and with the Reconciliation Day, that was Justice Inform Day. So we put Justice Inform and Reconciliation together to
Perfect.
out and invite everybody to be a part of trying to create a better, environment that we all can coexist in. So that's where Vincent came in, and Vincent and Gavin had a prior relationship, and I was able to meet Gavin along with Vincent work, and they've have done big events that incorporated the Magna Carta celebration that was held in London.
Um,
Um, so many other national, international events that they've been involved in, and they allowed me to tag along.
that's incredible. And like I said, I am hoping to speak with Mr. Vincent Kyle eventually too, because both of you gentlemen, along with Gavin, all three of you are just incredible.
We sure appreciate you and thank you for your support. I will leave you and say that the Urban Renaissance is our third part, as my third part, just for reconciliation to lead way for economic and financial inclusion for the urban communities. And we've now launched the Urban Renaissance campaign, which we're hoping to put, over 1 million people out of the urban community into the financial market by way of asset-based accounts. Um, that's our campaign. Right now, we're partnering with churches, nonprofits, entrepreneur businesses to help get them tools that they can use to um, empower themselves in the community. So we're trying to make the community more inclusive, and instead of just being on the forefront asking for someone to invest in the urban communities, we're looking for tools that allow us to empower ourselves. So we've had a great run on the Justice Inform and Reconciliation platform, but we're on the part that matters equally as much, and that's the financial part. And we have those tools. We've had just the last few weeks, we've been talking to some merchant services companies that will allow us to get people to reduce their costs and fees with their merchant services. We've had some loyalty reward companies that were going to allow some of the businesses to create more perks among their customer base. We have a software company that's going to allow the nonprofit, the churches, and the volunteer, the people who are on the front line that don't have the resources in the community, to leverage their network, and they'll be able to build their base out. So this part of the electronic uh, inclusion part is really fun. It's exciting. It allows you to do so much with so less of an effort. So yeah, I'm getting really really excited about the urban renaissance part, and a
That's
lot more. Right, there's a lot more social acceptance to talk about finance,
right.
talk about crime, and trying to create an environment for people to get along. We all get along when it comes to finance. Okay,
Yeah, there we go.
absolutely.
Actually, and on a lighter note, you are a romance author too. You
Uh,
wrote Love's Journey. So, how did this come about?
I didn't think we were gonna get to that one. That 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 story is like that's my personal story. That's the one that I nurture. That's like the baby of my life. It's the
Uh,
yeah. That's the side that you don't necessarily get a chance to share. I would love to at some point. I think it's a great, great story. Not so much social acceptable because it's not for the youth. And at this point, when you're dealing with all of the issues that we're dealing with, we're trying to be a good role model for our youth. So I will tell you though, for truly mature audiences, it's a great story.
yeah.
What they had to put together in order to create uh, the environment that I want to truly share in that story. But if you can get past, that part,
Yeah.
yeah, we may have a hard time sharing those the inspirational romance, but it's truly personal. That's truly my baby, to be honest with you. So when all of the justice informed and reconciliation work is done, you'll catch me doing Love's Journey. So that
Oh,
is
yeah.
that's my
Oh,
story.
yeah.
That's a personal thing. So everything else is for a lot of other people. But if I'm successful at those things, when I do Love's Journey, um, it's gonna be personal.
There'll be a great Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Right now, I gotta kind of leave that where it is. I'm hoping that's in the near future I get a chance to work on that
Right,
project.
right. That'll be great.
Absolutely.
Any other hobbies?
Well, for now, finance has always been my thing. I want to share that I came upon the urban renaissance as a byproduct of Wall Street bonds. I thought Wall Street bond was the connection between the urban community and Wall Street. And I think because those Wall Street and these urban communities are connected, it
Mm.
is not promoted. They're not in the same social environment. So that's my hobby. Putting those two extremes together. That's my passion. Getting people to a place that they can find the true value in their lives going forward versus letting these things happen in their lives before they get a chance to get that exposure. And that Wall Street bonds is my passion. That's my main thing I'm doing now. I'm totally committed to it, and we're finally breaking ground locally. And if you think my hometown is prosperity, so to be doing a Wall Street bond the urban renaissance project in a town that's small, that's called Prosperity, and be connecting with the local people there that are empowering the local people there. For me, it's a dream and it's a passion come true. So um, I'll say that to be my everything right now.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much. And my last question is, how can people who want to reach out to their community, how can they copy your module, or who should they contact if they need help installing your module in their community?
Well, these guys are very active on social media. I think we connect across those platforms. Facebook, we have the community,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, the Twitter profiles. Those 85% of the people on their phones 85% of the time, whether they're paying bills or just scrolling through social media. I think that is the best place to connect with anybody who's doing anything. Whether you have a problem you're trying to address, or whether you just have someone that you want to connect with and maybe talk to them privately about what's going on in your community. So I think social media right now would be my tool that I would want someone to use wherever they are, or whatever's going on in their issue, or whatever
Wonderful.
going on. And for me personally, just connect with me across social media, follow what we do, share what we do. Um,
Wonderful. I will copy your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram in the description.
Please do. Thank you so much, Irene. And again, love you
Uh,
so much of your support. Looking forward to those things that you're doing as well. I follow everything
I'm
you're doing,
trying. Yes.
and you consistent, you have been faithful, and I'm looking forward to all the success, all the things that you aspire to do, and everyone that you reach out to. And I'm hoping they open their doors to you as much as you've done it for each and every one of us.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to help any way I can. And it was truly a pleasure to see you and talk to you again. And hopefully we'll have you on another episode too.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Thank you. You have a great evening. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Um, hold on.